So you want to move to Florida like so many other people. You want to make sure that you have your budget ready to ensure that you can actually afford living in Florida. If you're somebody that's moving from California or maybe New York, especially Manhattan, you're probably still going to feel that Florida is very affordable, but that's not going to be the case for many of you. So this video is about all major costs that we need to account for that might be changing in Florida. And then towards the end of this video, I'm actually going to walk through an Excel spreadsheet that I'm more than happy to share with you if you just download it from the link I'm going to be supplying you. That's going to list probably 95% of the costs that you're going to really have to think about if you're purchasing a house here in Florida. So I hope that this video is going to be helpful to you. Now, if you're new to my channel, my name is Katrin Fitzgerald. I'm a real estate agent in Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakewood Ranch, and Venice. Subscribe to this channel if it sounds interesting to you, that is Florida related information. Like this video and we're going to get right into it. First off, let's talk about the home insurance crisis that we're currently facing here in Florida. So home insurance costs are so high. The average person for a single family home is probably paying around $4,000 to $5,000 in homeowners insurance to insure their home. Now, if you're somebody that's looking to purchase a new construction home, the home insurance typically will be a lot cheaper or a lot more affordable on these homes. But just relatively speaking, the homeowners insurance costs are going to be higher than they were 2 or 3 years ago. And there's a lot of talk that the premiums are going to be increasing again, maybe 50%, maybe 100%. So every time there's a bad hurricane, insurance companies are going to have to pay out, right, to those that have been insured through them. They're going to be raising premiums in order to cover their costs. And then multiply that with fraud that's going on. It's very expensive for them to operate in Florida, and probably more and more are going to leave Florida, and that's going to leave us with just a few private carriers that are still here. Don't get caught off guard, especially if you're purchasing a new house. Before you even put in an offer into the house, maybe what you want to do is call a homeowner's insurance agent, see what they're saying in terms of what the possibilities are, first of all, for homeowners insurance, but also how much it's going to cost you. If you're a cash buyer, then you don't have to have homeowners insurance. You do, though, if it's going to be a mortgaged home. But if it's a cash home, then it's really up to you to self-insure. And then there's the insurer of last resort, which is Citizen Property Insurance Company. And they have about 1.5 million customers. So the majority of customers are now being insured under Citizens Property. And they just recently came out with a mandate where they're saying, well, as long as you have a policy with us starting very soon, you're going to also have to have flood insurance. And that is just an extra cost that people are going to have to think about. Real estate prices. So a lot of you are used to the real estate prices pre-COVID days. And many of you that I talk to on the phone, you just can't believe how much they've appreciated in certain places in Florida. So for example, in the Sarasota, Bradenton area, we've seen price appreciation beyond 61%, where back in March of 2020, the median price was around $315,000 for the Northport, Sarasota, and Bradenton area. And now, March of 2023, we're looking at $509,000, and this is per Sunstat data. This is just one example, but there's other places across Florida where price appreciation could have even been beyond that. Now, if you're somebody that's looking to come here from, say, Manhattan, where the median price is easily over $1.2 million, most of the places here in Florida are going to be very affordable for you, right? Because your benchmark is $1.2 million as kind of like the middle price point. But not everybody's coming from Manhattan. A lot of you are coming from other places across the United States where the median price is much closer to what the median price is right now in Florida, maybe even below it. And so you want to make sure wherever you're interested in moving to in Florida that you understand what the going prices is. You're going to want to look at the median price, not the average price, because the average price can get heavily skewed by really expensive homes and really affordable homes that get sold, where the median price is the price in the middle of the data set. Directionally speaking, the closer you get to the coast, especially the southwest and the south coast, the more expensive it's going to get. The further inland you go, the more affordable it is. Now I will say this, that Orlando, which for many of you was really affordable, say 3-4 years ago, there's some very expensive pockets in Orlando. And it just goes to show you that it is so important that you gain local knowledge and you work with a realtor that can really help you determine what makes sense to work with in your budget, location wise, right? But even before you get there, have a set budget and then see if you can move to the Gulf Coast if that's where you wanted to live, or maybe you need to make some sacrifices. And perhaps if you wanted to live in the coast but you can't afford Sarasota living, where the median price is now $550,000, maybe you're going to want to look over on the other side, such as in places as Daytona Beach, which is one of the most affordable coastal towns you can live in. Jacksonville is pretty affordable. What I've done actually for you guys is I created a Tableau sheet, which I'm going to share with you. I'm actually going to put a link in the description section of my video, and you'll see all the prices, March 2023 versus same time last year, for all major cities in this Tableau sheet for Florida. And that's going to help you kind of narrow down, I think, where you should be looking at if budget is of concern to you. So please make sure you look for the info in the description section of this video, and it's totally free. Property taxes. So for most of you that are purchasing a home here in Florida, the property taxes are going to go up if you compare it to the previous owner, especially somebody that's owned that home prior to COVID days. And that's because most likely the home is homestead, and if the home is homestead, the property taxes cannot go up by more than 3% a year. And if it's not homestead, then it can't go up by any more than 10% a year. But now imagine over the last few years, we've seen price appreciation in some areas that were 60%, 100%. And so as soon as you purchase a home, the taxes get reset. A general rule to utilize to help you gauge how much taxes you're going to be paying, but this is kind of a very directional way, right? It could come in higher or it could be lower, is to utilize 1.1, or maybe you want to use 1.2% of the price you paid. So let's just say you bought $1 million home, you just bought $1 million home, you can expect the property taxes to be about $11,000, maybe even more. So you might want to budget more than what you came up with the 1.1% rule, just so that there's no surprises along the way. Now, the property appraiser's office, so take Sarasota for example, they'll actually say that estimating property taxes that you're going to be paying is really hard, right? So the 1.1% or 1.2% rule is just to help you get an idea of how much you need to budget it, but it could come in higher, it could come in lower. Assessments. In Florida, you can live in a non-deed restricted community or in a deed restricted community. Most of the deed restricted communities will have an HOA. An HOA association is a homeowners association, which is essentially an organization in a subdivision. You, as somebody that's buying into an HOA community, are responsible in having to pay all the dues, which are known as HOA fees and also assessments. HOA fees and assessments can go up every year. Now, with high inflation, labor costs are just so much more expensive. Premiums of insurances going higher. You can expect the assessments to go up higher as well. Now, here's what you want to do. If you're interested in a particular HOA community, make sure before you make an offer that you review their financials, the budget, see what they have in the reserves. You want to make sure that they have a good amount of money in the reserves. And then also check the meetings that they've had, right? The meeting minutes, to see if they talked about any repair needs. Maybe they are planning renovations. See where the money is going to be spent, because who's going to be paying for it is everybody that lives in the HOA community. And so if you're purchasing into the HOA community, you can expect to pay for it as well. Now, older condos and co-ops are going to be faced with the Surfside bill, which was passed in response to the building in Miami that collapsed just a few years ago, where it killed almost 100 people. And there's a lot of talk in terms of the collapse having been preventable if the necessary repair work would have been done on the building. And so the Surfside bill is there to ensure, for one, that necessary repair work gets done. This bill will likely pose a huge financial burden on older condos and co-ops. And I actually have an entire video just dedicated to the Surfside bill. And so if you haven't watched it yet, please do, because there's just so much more details around the surcharge billing. You need to be aware of it, especially if you're looking to purchase a condo unit that's a bit older. Now what I want to do now is walk you through an Excel spreadsheet, which I'd be more than happy to share with you. I'm going to put a link to it as well in the description section of this video. The Excel spreadsheet essentially lists all of the costs involved in living here in Florida. I would say about 95% of them. And I think this spreadsheet is really going to help you think through everything you need to that is involved in purchasing a home and living here in Florida. All right, so here's the spreadsheet. It's important to know that the information in the spreadsheet is going to vary greatly for you guys. You can edit the information. It really depends on where in Florida you move to, how much you're going to be paying for a home. And so this is just a model that's based on my own scenario. What I want you guys to focus on is column D, which is for Florida monthly, and column E, which is for yearly Florida. But let's start talking about net income first. You're really going to need to know how much money you're bringing home, so not gross, but net, because the costs that I'm listing here are going to come off your net income, okay? So let's just assume that you're purchasing a home in Florida. The Florida median price right now for March came in at about $405,000 in comparison to the national price, which is at $380,000. Now, if you're purchasing a house that's $405,000 here in Florida, you're most likely going to be putting down 20%, and you're most likely going to get a 30-year fix. That is, if you're somebody that's taking out a mortgage. If it's a cash deal, then this model would look a little bit different, okay? But let's assume you're getting a mortgage. I'm estimating that your monthly payment, this is just principal and interest. Typically the taxes and the homeowners insurance are going to be lumped in there as well, but I wanted to keep that separate for this Excel spreadsheet to show you how to estimate it, okay? So your principal and interest is going to come out to roughly a month, which on a yearly basis is going to cost you $25,000. But now add in the real estate taxes, and based on the conversation we had earlier in this video, I'm saying that a good way to estimate it is to use 1.1% of the purchase price of the home. Though it could be more, it could be less. You won't really know until you get the tax bill in the mail. Now, if you're somebody that's getting a mortgage, you have to get homeowners insurance. If you're purchasing in cash, you don't, but I really suggest that you get insurance to your home to safeguard it. In any case, you're mortgaging the home, you need to get homeowners insurance. The best way to estimate how much it's going to cost you is to call an insurance broker. And I would actually do this before you even put an offer on a home, because you want to know this information for budgetary purposes to ensure you're not over your head. In this case, because in Florida the average going price right now is anywhere between $4,000 to $5,000 for a single family home. This is what I'm putting in there, though again, if you're getting a new construction home, that number is probably going to look far less. Now, flood insurance is not required unless you're with Citizen Property. In that case, there's a lot of talk that it is going to become required fairly soon. If you're in a flood zone, such as flood zone AE, you are required to get flood insurance if you have a mortgage. I'm assuming though that you want to get flood insurance, and it's going to cost you at around $630. Typically, flood insurance is less expensive if you're in a non-flood zone. If you're in an AE zone, that's a totally different story. But let's go with $630 in this case here. Now, HOA fees and CDD fees. So what I have highlighted here in yellow, if you're purchasing a home in a non-deed restricted community, you will not be incurring these costs. But many of you are actually looking to purchase in gated HOA communities. And so in this model, that's what I've put in here. Now the HOA fees can differ quite a bit, from $100 to $500, maybe even more, and it depends on the community, what you get within the community. So you're going to want to have that information before you even put an offer in place, right? Just to make sure that you have all of this budgeted and accounted for. I'm assuming that in this model here, monthly is going to come out to about $350, and then on a yearly basis, we're looking at $4,200. Note that HOA fees can go up, so this is just year one. CDD fees are common in newer types of communities. So in Lakewood Ranch, there you are incurring CDD fees, which stands for Community Development District fees. It's when a builder takes out a bond. It's typically a 30-year bond or maybe a 15-year bond to pay for the infrastructure and also the maintenance of the community. And those fees are carried over to the homeowners in the form of a CDD fee, which gets rolled into the tax bill. In this case, I'm assuming about $2,500 because that's kind of on average what people are paying in the Lakewood Ranch area. Now, with the purchase of a home, there is home maintenance that's required. Some of you may actually be doing this by yourself. So for example, lawn service, if you want to do it by yourself, you can probably save $200 a month. But if you're hiring somebody, on average, it's going to cost you about $2,400 a year. Pool service, assuming you have a pool, you can take care of it yourself, or you can hire somebody, and the costs here are around $1,200. Exterminator, I really suggest that anybody that purchases a house or a condo get an exterminator. Quarterly exterminator that comes in there to ensure that your house is free of critters such as palmetto bugs, for example. The costs here on average are around $400. Maybe you want an alarm system. It's going to cost you roughly $480, maybe a little bit more. Now, if you're buying a single family home in Florida, I highly suggest that you think about getting termite protection because Florida is very prone to termites, especially subterranean termites, which can be very destructive. But you can also get protection for your home where they'll come in. It's going to cost about $1,000, maybe a little bit more to put the initial bait inside of the grounds, but it's well worth it, to safeguard your home. And so I have it done myself. I would say that on a yearly basis, you're probably going to come in below $1,000, but I'm putting $1,000 in here for the initial installation. You're going to want to have some money set aside for home repairs because you don't know what's going to go wrong. Maybe your air conditioner is going to crap out on you. Perhaps your pool pump stops working. And I have it set at 1% of the price of the home. Living expenses. So how much does it cost to actually pay for utilities? Based on information I've gotten, the average here in Florida is right here. So on a monthly basis for utilities. Now the remainder of these costs are really going to depend on your lifestyle choices, your personal situation. And so I plugged in some numbers here that based on my research is basically saying are averages. But again, these are going to differ, I'm sure, between each one of you guys. Transportation, if you're a remote worker, the transportation costs are going to be far less for you than somebody that's actually needing to drive 10, 30 miles to and from their job. When it comes to gas prices, here in Florida, it's really on par with the national gas prices, and there's online platforms that you can tap into to get a better understanding of what the going prices are right now. So fine-tune these costs here based on your lifestyle choices and your current situation. What I did want to point out here is the healthcare cost. You may be working for a corporation where some of that is subsidized, but know that Florida healthcare costs are higher than the national average. So I just wanted to put that out there. And you're going to want to add in any additional debt that you may be paying right now, whether it's credit card debt or student loans. Just add it into this budget sheet here. What I wanted to show you is that if you were to buy a house at $405,000, it's mortgaged, right? And you're in an HOA community, assuming these costs here, and you have a home that will be maintained by hiring labor, right? And you have all these living expenses based on this spreadsheet here, which I feel are very average costs, then you would need a little bit over $100,000 to make this budget work. And this is probably one of the reasons why a lot of people live with each other and share their costs, because if you're sharing the costs, then this actually doesn't seem so bad anymore. It could be doable for a lot of you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, if it was of value to you, like this video, I really appreciate it. Now, if you're someone that's interested in purchasing a home in Sarasota, Lakewood Ranch, Bradenton, or Venice, I would love to be your realtor of choice. Call me, email me anytime. I love hearing from all of you guys. And thank you so much for tuning in today. I always appreciate when you guys do. Take care.